down one over here.
Oh shit. I gotta hit it back. I don't know what you want to.
Dude, the bow is...
Alright guys, so a lot of you guys have been asking for me to make my Apex Legends Season 14 controller settings video. So this video is pretty long overdue. So I'm just going to pretty much be running over like all the gameplay settings that I use and how to optimize these settings. And really the main thing is just going to be like the controller settings I use. I do use ALC, but just remember that controller settings are really personal preference. There's not like a perfect setting for everybody, like a universal perfect setting. So I'm going to show you guys what I use, and what I suggest is putting these on and then kind of making minor adjustments to each setting to make them fit more to your playstyle. So once we get to that part, I'll go ahead and run it all through with you and show you guys how to make these minor adjustments and how to tell where you should make adjustments at. So let's go ahead and hop right into the gameplay settings. Alright, so for interact prompt style, I use compact. Button hits, I have off. Crosshair damage feedback, I personally love X, so I would recommend using X. Damage numbers, stacking. Ping opacity, default. A lot of people have faded, but it's really personal preference. Obituaries I have on. Minimap rotation, everybody else in the world has it off. I have it on. Just personal preference. Weapon, auto, cycle, and empty, on. That's when your gun runs out of ammo. It automatically switches to your secondary. Auto sprint, I have on. I recommend to have that on. Double tap sprint, I have off. Jetpack control, hold. That's for Valkyrie. Always keep that on hold. It's just way better. Incoming damage feedback 3D. Taking damage closes death box or crafting menu, off. You need this off. Because if you're like looting a box and you get shot, and you have this on, it'll make you stop looting, so you won't be able to shield swap or do what you're doing in the box. So keep that off. Hop up, pop up, off. Streamer mode, off. I mean, up to you. Anonymous mode disabled. Usage sharing enabled. Performance display, off. You can have that on. It just shows your FPS. Club invites enabled. Communication filter, everybody. Reticle. This is what I use for my reticle. If you want that light blue look, it's 0, 25, 25, or 0, 255, 255 for the numbers. If you like the light blue look that you see in my videos, I definitely recommend putting these on. Laser sight. I thought I had a custom before. I guess not. I liked it light green. Yeah, I guess it reset. I like it something like light green like that. But it's personal preference. Alright, so we'll keep that on. Colorblind mode. Tritanopia. I kind of rotate between all these, but Tritanopia is always my favorite. Controller settings. Here we go. Alright, actually, yeah. We'll go and do video first. Brightness I have on 65 and FOV I have on 110. FOV ability scaling disabled and sprint view shake minimal. Keep this on disabled, by the way. This is like if you're Octane. I'll show you real fast. So this is what FOV scaling does. So like when you're stemmed up, you see how my FOV doesn't change right there? It stays the same when you're stemmed up. Okay, now watch. When you turn the setting on, it like zooms in whenever you stem up. Okay, watch. So, see how it zooms in like that? So it kind of just messes with you sometimes. So I recommend having this off, but it's up to you. Just kind of test with it a little bit, test around with it a little bit. I recommend it having disabled. Alright, and audio. This is what I have. Up to you, really. Alright, but now for the main part of this video, controller settings. So for my button layout, I have only thing I switched around are my equipment grenade and my extra character interaction. And that's only because like I had my D-pad really messed up in the past. So I was playing like this for a while. It's just what I like. It's really just personal preference. I keep all my buttons on default because I play with paddles on my controller. So that's what I use for my button layout. Stick layout default. Interact reload button. Tap to use and reload. I recommend having that on. Crouch button I have on hold. I use that for like bunny hopping, and I recommend having it on hold. Just try having it on hold, mess around with it for a little bit, and you get used to it after a while. So I recommend having it on hold. Aim button I have on hold. Survival slot button I have off. You can have that on. That's just so you can like throw heat shields and mobile respawns. Trigger dead zones, none. Menu cursor speed. I know a lot of people that actually have it like pretty low. I like to keep it right here, like right to the third little tick of the none. It's like almost to the top. That's where I keep it. Alright, so I guess we'll do just this is what I use for like non-ALC settings. I usually have a 4:3 sensitivity with a linear response curve. I recommend trying that out if you don't like ALC settings. They're pretty nice. Or you can do a 4:3 with a classic response curve. But that's really what I have for my I never use non-ALC. But when I do use non-ALC, that's the settings I use. But let's hop into the ALC settings. Alright, so for dead zone, I have 5. Outer threshold, I have 1. And response curve, I have 5. I've played with 0 response curve, 10 response curve, 7, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pretty much every single response curve in the game. For me, 5 was my sweet spot. That's why I loved it personally. But I'll go ahead and run through like what each lower response curve. If you have it on 0, that's a linear response curve, and your controller stick is very responsive, so it's not as tight as it would be with like a 10 response curve. So I'll show you that real fast. My stick is probably going to kick in right here. Maybe not. All right, so it's just a lot more responsive than like a 10 would be. It's just a lot faster. So come back over here. 10 just feels a little bit more stiff, not as responsive, not as quick. But I mean, in my opinion, all response curves are good. Like I said, it's all personal preference, what you like. For me, I kind of like it right there at the 5. That's where I've always liked it. So test around with this a little bit and see what response curve you like. And also for dead zone, this is if you have bad stick drift, you want to keep your dead zone as low as possible without the stick drift kicking in. Maybe just having a little bit of stick drift is fine, but you really want to keep this as low as you can without your stick drift just going insane. So like I'll show you for example. This is why I have mine on 5. Like if I do this, you see that stick drift? It's just, for me, I just can't play like that. I don't like that. But I know a lot of people play with a little bit of stick drift. So you really just want to keep this as low as you can without stick drift kicking in. So I have a little bit of 5/5, but it's like manageable. So dead zone, keep as low as you can without stick drift, and response curve, just kind of find the response curve that you enjoy playing on and like the one that kind of fits your playstyle more. So just test around with that a little bit. Alright, so for yaw speed, this is like how fast you turn left or right. I play on 358. Pitch speed is your up and down, your vertical. I play on 192. Turning extra yaw and turning extra pitch, I have 0/0. I used to play with this on like 180. That kind of just like when your right stick is at its max, like when you're turning like this, like you're pushing your right stick to the max, you can push it. That's when the extra yaw it kicks in. So if you have like a 180, like for example, if you have a turning extra yaw 180 and you're pushing your right stick as far as you can to the right, that 180 goes on top of the 358. So like if you're pushing your stick at the max to the right, to the max, it would be like 538. That's like the max it would be, your yaw. So I keep this off. It's up to you really, test around with it a little bit. This is what I run, 358, 192. And I always keep these off. I've never touched them. I've tried it, I'm not a fan. I know some people keep them on. I would recommend just avoiding these at all costs. But now for my ADS yaw speed, I have a 148, ADS pitch speed 105, and then ADS turning extra yaw I keep on 100. I do that for flicks. So if I'm pushing my stick to the max to the right or left, I get an extra 100 ADS yaw speed, so it'll be 248 when I'm pushing my stick to the right or left. And that's just kind of the help to like, if I just shot someone else and I need to shoot someone else like on the far left of the screen, I can just push my stick to the max a little bit and it'll gain 100 yaw speed, and I can just kind of flick over there to that person. So it's just kind of like, personal preference, kind of get a feel for it. I love having the extra 100 yaw, but if you don't like that, you can put it on 0. It's all personal preference here. And then extra pitch 0, and I always keep these on 0. So those are my ALC settings, but let's go ahead and hop over to the per optic settings. Per optic I have on 1, 1.2, 1.5, 1.8, 2.2, 2.6, and 2.8. So those are my ALC settings, and remember, this is all personal preference. What I recommend you do is putting these on, and if these settings feel a little bit too slow to you, like maybe a little too stiff, you can turn down the response curve a little bit, and that should help out with like feeling a little too stiff. It will make you feel more responsive if you do that. But if these are feeling too fast, I recommend maybe turning down the yaw speed a little bit, and also upping your response curve. If you're used to playing on a classic 10 response curve, I recommend trying out these settings with like a 7, and just like, you know, you can just keep messing with this number until it feels perfect for you. That's how I found my perfect settings. So I recommend putting these settings on and just messing around and making minor adjustments in places that you feel are necessary until you find your perfect settings. Yeah, that's basically the settings I currently run, and I hope this video helps you guys out.